Hey everyone, my name is Chris Green. For a few years now, I've been running this music production tips and tutorials channel. I get a lot of comments and I try to respond to them as many as possible, but I thought today, you know what, let's do a video where I can address as many as possible. Now, in future videos, if you're interested in becoming a member, I always try to give a priority reply to the members who are supporting this channel. You can just click the join button below any of my videos and become a member today. It goes a long way to support the channel so I can keep doing what I'm doing. This first comment is from Mason Shirley 4051. This is on the Music Needs an Analog Reset video. They say, 100% agree with you. I've owned a commercial studio for 16 years. I'm considering buying a 24-track tape machine and offering a 100% analog route. AI is lame. So if you haven't watched the video, I want to encourage you to go watch it. My purpose of making the video is not for me to just bash you for using electronic devices. I mentioned electronic drums in that video. I can use electronic drums, but I'm just saying from a fulfillment standpoint, what gives me the most joy is that when I'm creating a song, I've got as many hands-on features as possible. If I'm going to record and use this piano, it is a very different experience than when I take some microphones and I put it on an upright piano or I put it on a grand piano, as I've done in several videos before. So going forward, I think if you're looking to click a button and just avoid doing any sort of work, I think you're going to be missing out on a lot of fun. So I'm not going the route of like where Mason Shirley says 24-track tape machine. I'm not there yet, but I could see myself doing that in the future. Who knows? Okay, this next comment is on the same video. This one's from username JPDs. Excuse me for getting any of these wrong. They say, when you live with others and want to play or record without disturbing them, you kind of need electronic drums. Hate to say it, but if I could toss well-recorded tracks into a folder, hit a button, and it shoots out a mixed version of it, I would love that. Okay, then mixing is a pain. I totally understand that by using AI, or if we could click a button and it would just mix it for us, if you're trying to just accomplish the goal, like maybe you do this for work, again, if your main goal is I need to make money off of what I'm doing, then yes, you want to take every shortcut you can because you are working for someone, even if that someone is you're just working for the money. If it's going to give you a consistent result, it's going to cause you to not have to think about what you're doing. I can understand you're going to want to click the button, but again, it goes back to the fulfillment. Now, on the drums standpoint, now here in this room, you've seen many videos on my channel. I've got acoustic drums set up all the time. I do have a growing family. We do have a newborn. I have another child as well. We've gone through the struggle of, hey, Dad's going to be recording some drums today, or maybe for the next hour, I need to be really loud. Y'all might want to go play in the backyard. You might want to go play outside. So that we find ways to work around it. Now at my church, we have an electronic drum set. And what I said in that video was, I walk past that drum set all the time, and the electronic drum set does not cause me to sit down and say, why don't I put on some headphones and start hitting all this rubber? But when I have an acoustic set up, every time I'd walk by it, I'd want to hit it. So it's just, again, whatever's going to be fulfilling for you. If it's fulfilling for you to avoid having to mix stuff, you just want to click a button, that's fine. Okay, this next one I believe is Chris Stout, 8451. It says, it seems we all have a limit as to what we think is acceptable to us produce music. As a non-drummer, I started using an Alesis drum machine, HR16, way back in the late 80s. I had songs I wanted to record and time to create the blocks of patterns used. I didn't use loops because I wanted some variation in what the drums did. So instead of some constant 4-bar loop, I'd make longer patterns and within the patterns have some variations. Of course, everything was quantized and repeatable, but it allowed me to create what I wanted. I would have loved to use an actual drummer. I'd love to have other musicians involved in what I wrote, but it wasn't possible. This is very different than what I believe I was addressing in the video. You have to work within your constraints. I'm a type person where I can kind of mediocrely, I can just about medium most of the instruments out there. But if a song called for a string quartet, I'm not going to be able to do that. And so I will reach over to this virtual keyboard and I will play a strings version of a virtual instrument. So I'm not opposed to using tools to make music. I would just caution anyone that's looking for a click the button and generate it for you. Don't miss out on that creative opportunity because you're plenty more capable than you think you are. So in your situation, Chris Stout, let's say you didn't use the Alesis drum machine at all. Like you would have missed out on that whole workflow. Now you know how to use that drum machine. You knew how to make it your own. You took the tool, you kind of put your fingerprint, your hands on it, and it became part of your workflow. Like this is the same thing with electronic drums. The electronic drums aren't going to really play themselves. You're going to sit down and play out a pattern. So it's just a tool. You're using tools. I'm not opposed to that whatsoever. Sounds like you learned a lot and you had fun doing it. Next one is I'm not going to get this name right. Carmen Kerosene Music. I use AI to change my voice on certain songs where my voice really doesn't fit the style. It's still my vocal performance, but the singer sounds better. Otherwise, I do everything myself, except the easy drummer loops. So in this situation, we're talking about using AI to alter a performance that you have, okay? I don't see that being a huge problem. I think there's a common theme, and you'll see this with a lot of the comments, even the last one as well. It's where, well, I can't do it myself, so I'm going to go to the machine to do it. And I think that if we were bold enough, I think if we had a little bit more courage, we would probably find spaces in your community. If you live in the United States, somewhere around you, there is a music scene where there are people who know how to sing. There are people who know how to play drums. There are people who know how to play strings. And so I don't immediately go to, okay, well, I'm not a good singer, so I'm just going to load this program and it'll do it for me. Like, you may want to put something out on social media. You want to put something out on your local town's Facebook group. I don't know what the solution would be, but ask around, because there's probably a singer out there that says, I know how to sing really well, but I don't know how to put beats together, or I don't know how to make a song. I would love to be able to sing on somebody's stuff. And if you have that human connection where you're working with a person or multiple people, I think in the long run, it'd be better off than clicking a button. But I totally get that. Like, I think that singing myself, like, I do not enjoy. I love the idea that I could be a really good singer, but every time I sing something for a YouTube video, it just makes me cringe even still. So may reach for a tool on that front. Okay, this next one, users Stanley Williams 3019. I think instrument and vocal interplay cannot be duplicated by AI. There is something about human connections based on listening and reacting to others that is unmatched and never will be. Okay, by and large, yes, I agree, but I'm the type, I don't know what's the opposite of optimistic. Maybe pessimistic is the right word. I don't think going forward, I don't think we should look at AI or technology, like even before AI was a thing. Did you ever think there would be a time where we have self-driving cars, okay? Technology is always going to be advancing. They will find ways around it. I was just watching a video the other day. It was on Eric Valentine's channel, which if you haven't subscribed, check out Eric Valentine. There's one that's like an artist, but this is Eric Valentine, the producer for Third Eye Blind, All American Rejects, Smash Mouth, other bands like that. He was using an 1176 plugin that featured machine learning. And by machine learning, it's one of those, it still doesn't seem like the natural plugin that we're used to seeing. There's always stuff happening in the background. It's a plugin that is basically using AI. I don't know the terms as well as I should, but anyway, this was an 1176 that had a bunch of stuff happening in the background so that it could sound even more real. I think there's definitely going to be better plugins next year than there are this year. I think that the advancements we've seen in AI over the past 12 months will be 4 times that in the next 12 months. So I don't want to be shocked. I want to go ahead and just assume that going into the future, I'm just going to assume that there is a button that will be on every computer, and that button will be Do you want me to create a movie? Do you want me to create you a video game? Do you want me to create you some music? And it will probably sound just like people because it learns from what we give it. There's a feature on YouTube, kind of hidden in the settings, and it basically asks you, are you giving YouTube permission to train its AI model by using the content on your channel? And I don't know. It seems kind of like I don't know why, but my initial response was no. I don't want to train AI based on my stuff because personally, I don't want to look up on YouTube and see a bunch of Chris Greens floating around. There's just one me. So I want to maintain what little uniqueness I still have. So I agree, Stanley Williams, with your comment, but I would just preface by saying, don't be surprised when AI, when technology, fill in the blank, becomes so advanced that to most people, they're not going to be able to tell. You may be able to tell, but the majority of people are not going to be able to tell. Okay, this is from a different video. This is from my Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 video. This person's username, Diana Ferez, 6468. It says, if we don't use the 5-volt DC, will it affect the laptop battery life? Okay, so I do have the Focusrite Scarlett right here. On the back of all your Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 4th generations, you have two USB-C ports. One of them is clearly labeled USB. The other one is 5-volt DC. They added the 5-volt DC slot so that you could use your audio interface with your cell phone, your iPhone, or your iPad, like a tablet. If you are running this with your laptop, as long as your laptop has its power supply plugged in, you should be good to go. Now, if your laptop is not plugged into a power supply, both your laptop and the audio interface will cease to work at a certain point. It can't run on batteries forever, okay? And it definitely should affect your laptop battery life. Now, I don't know if you mean like the temporary battery life of your unit. Obviously, your laptop will not be able to last as long if it has objects plugged in. Okay, this audio interface doesn't take a lot of power to work, but it does take power. So your laptop is becoming the battery for this interface. Over time, I can't remember the last time, like I used to have a 2011 MacBook, and it was one of those that I had to swap the battery out. And back in the day, you could go on Amazon, you could just get a battery, pop it in, you're good to go. So I don't know if you mean the long-term battery life. I don't think that's going to be super detrimental to you, but you definitely don't need that 5-volt DC slot being used if it's plugged into a laptop. Your laptop should be able to supply it with plenty of power. Okay, this is a comment on my video comparing the SM81 to the Neumann TLM103. These are two condenser microphones. The TLM103 is a large diaphragm condenser mic. The SM81 from Shure is a small diaphragm condenser mic. So I did a video where I compared the two of them. All right, this is from Mark Michalik, 9693. I noticed a difference, but it is there, although it was not significant. I'm not sure if what I'm hearing is more reverb or a stronger, fuller sound on the TLM. The price difference may not be enough to justify the results unless you have no budget constraints. Maybe you can achieve the same tone if you process the SM81 recording afterwards. The whole purpose of me making that video was because I have personally found that the SM81 from Shure is surprisingly good for its price point and also compared to the Neumann TLM103. If you took the Neumann badge off of this microphone, it would not be like $1,000 microphone. It would probably be a $700 microphone. The Shure SM81, it is a quite popular microphone. It's not as popular as the SM57, but when you compare the two, they are very, very similar. I've not used the SM81 on vocals a whole lot, but I would say your perceptions of what was going on with the TLM is very true. With the large diaphragm condenser microphone, it has a larger capsule. It is hearing more information, and that is going to pick up more ambience than the SM81 is. But in videos like that, like when I'm doing a shootout video, I know it's almost impossible for you to be able to perceive those nuances over a YouTube video. So my point was, if you're listening to these two things in solo, yes, you will sit there and go, okay, the TLM 103 is picking up more of the room. It's getting a fuller sound, but the SM81 is probably like 87, 88% right there with it. Those nuances are really going to be lost in translation. So my case in point to you was, if you're somebody that kind of ogles at the Neumann TLM 103, but you think to yourself like, oh, I'll never be able to afford that sound quality, I would highly encourage you to look for a used Shure SM81. You can find them for like low $300. It's a great microphone. So don't skip out on the SM81. All right, this next comment is on my video on how to connect a USB audio interface to an iPhone. This is from Na Trevo Visuals. It isn't working when I try to plug my interface into the adapter. It will work when it's plugged directly into the outlet or into the charging port, but not otherwise. Okay, so I believe what they're referring to in this video that I made on how to connect your USB audio interface to your iPhone, I used what Apple calls the camera AV adapter. It's basically an adapter that gives you a USB port and then a charging port. Now, one of the things that I would try, if you've tried plugging in your audio interface and you've plugged in your charger into that adapter, you may just need to take the adapter out, keep the interface, keep your charging cable plugged into the adapter, but the end of the adapter that plugs into your phone, unplug that and plug it back in, because the order of operations seems to matter. If you plug in the adapter to your phone and then you plug in your interface and then you plug in the charging cable, it doesn't seem to work. You need to have your interface plugged in first. You need to have the charging cable, because your phone, just like I mentioned with the Scarlett 2i2, our cell phones are not powerful enough to power these audio interfaces. So whether it is this one or the AudioBox 96, they need extra juice. So you cannot just take your cell phone and plug it into the AudioBox 96 and expect it to have enough power to run. You need juice coming from an outlet. So make sure you have that stuff plugged in. But in your situation, you're saying that it sounds like the order of operations, because it sounds like you're saying that it works one way, but it doesn't seem to work when I do it another way. Just make sure you have everything plugged in and then plug in that adapter. This is my video on the 5 biggest home studio mistakes and how to fix them. This comment comes from username FiddleZar87. Chris, around the 6 minute and 54 second mark, you mentioned recording praise team singers and piping it through during specials. I'm assuming you're talking about vocal stacks for live performances. I'm familiar with this, but don't really follow the process, especially if you have a need for hard pan instruments one direction and vocal stacks the other direction. If you could drop some knowledge in recording and mixing on that topic, that'd be great. I have searched and found nothing on that topic. Okay, so this was a good one to address over video, because in that video I made, we're talking about basically I brought up an anecdote. I brought up a story where basically when I started recording, I was already playing music, but I was at a church where we had the need to pipe vocals through the sound system. So if we're having a big Easter or Christmas special, sometimes we'd have a lot of hired instrumentalists that would come in, and it's a relatively small sanctuary. So when you have a lot of instruments on stage and you've got amps mic'd up and drums and timpanis and just all sorts of crazy stuff happening, it was very difficult in that space to have a properly mic'd up choir. So the choir had like 50, 60 people in it. We just needed it to sound like there were like 100 people in the choir. So what we would do is usually during our rehearsals on Wednesday nights, we would hold back some of our like praise team singers, and they would gather around a microphone and we would take turns recording the different parts. We would record the altos, the sopranos, the tenors. I would multi-track record them into PreSonus Studio One. Then I could take them and I could mix them up And I would always drop in the reference track. So we would have a demo of whatever song that we were performing. It's the same demo that the choir would be practicing with at home. I would have a click track set to that song. I would have the live recorded vocals added in. And when I was happy with the mix, I could go in during the week when nobody was at the church. I could pipe the instruments, everything I'd recorded back through the sound system to get everything like I liked it. And then I would export stems, and those stems would be dropped into Ableton Live. So I was a very, and still am, like just a very basic user when it comes to Ableton. I'm not using Ableton to do a bunch of like beats and things on the fly. I would have pre-arranged tracks that I could load. And the best thing about Ableton is that as I was playing drums, I would have my laptop next to me. And every song we did, I would have a number associated with it. So I could hit number 3 on the keyboard and it would start the third song for that program. With Ableton, you have a little mixer. So I would have a click track. I would have the choir track. I would have some of the auxiliary instruments like an orchestration or some sort of transition element that would be on there as well. And then out of my laptop, we ran it pretty basic. Out of my laptop, I just ran out of the headphone output, a little 3.5 millimeter jack, going into one of those radial stereo direct boxes. So it was a stereo direct box that we could send back to the PA system. And on one side, it would be our click track and cues. So it would be like a recording of me or a voice saying chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the chorus would start. The other side, like the right side, would have all of those instruments and things that I had already mixed, already put together. So whoever was running sound, they would have 2 faders. One fader would be for the click track, which would be turned down in the house. That was just to be fed back into our ears. Then another track would be for the pre-recorded, basically it was just called track. And what's great about that is it really didn't take a lot of extra mixing because that stuff had already been pre-mixed. It's not something you got to sit there and move the fader around. We don't have to EQ it, don't have to send it to a bunch of reverb, but they would just blend it in slightly. So it wasn't meant to be the predominant sound. It wasn't like our church had 2 musicians on stage and then we just got this like symphony of music around them. It wasn't like that whatsoever, but that's really what got me into recording. And as far as talking about panning, if you need, whenever you're playing with tracks, you've got to have some sort of click or cue or you're just not going to be able to stay in sync with the music. So that's one channel. So that leaves you, if you're stereo, that means all of your recorded, vocals or whatever you're mixing, they have to be mono. So the only way to break out of that is if you are using a dedicated like audio interface that has multiple outputs. So my Universal Audio Apollo Twin sitting here on my desk, it has a monitor left and right output, and it also has a line 3 and a line 4 output. So technically speaking, I could use those 4 outputs. I could send a different channel to each one, and then those could go to direct boxes that could go to the system. But if you can get in there with the pre-recorded tracks, like I'm talking about during the week, you can go ahead and mix these things up, and you shouldn't need more than 2 unless you just really want that stereo spread. Okay. Again, that same video, 5 biggest home studio mistakes. The comment is from, this is not going to be easy. Hopefully you see this on screen. At McCousman. Sorry. To increase, this is in all caps, to increase your number of subscribers, can you make your explanations in various languages such as French, Russian, Turkish? Thanks. Okay. Personally, I barely speak even just the English language. Okay. I find this a lot of times with musicians and creative people. We just have weird ways of talking. But as far as foreign languages, there's been a new feature on YouTube where they're using the auto dub feature. Now, ironically, I believe this is all being run by AI. So there we go. But what's great about it is that if I make a tutorial and I upload that tutorial in English, okay, that's the only language I can upload in. It is in English. Well, YouTube has a feature where it will take my educational video and it will put it in languages that I could never know how to speak. Now, the danger is I can't, like, I can go through and review those languages, but I don't know how to speak those languages. So I'm totally trusting that as YouTube is translating my audio, it's taking my message of what I'm saying and it's putting it out to different languages. I have noticed, and I did a video very specifically on how to record your song from your first song from beginning to end. I did notice that that video did not get put through the auto dub feature. And I believe it's because I had music in that video. So as soon as it hears guitar playing or singing, it basically just tells YouTube, okay, we can't do this right now. I think that's why it's limited to educational channels. A talking head video like this, where I'm just speaking to you, I don't have any music playing in the background. I think this one will be eligible for multiple languages, but also my back catalog, the many videos I've already done on like how to use PreSonus Studio One, those are still all in English, but all my future videos should have the auto dubbed feature. So if you're watching this and you're not an English speaker and you're hearing me in a different language, I'm glad you're here. I will do everything I can to provide you with videos in your language. I think that is important. And that is a positive that it can get along with AI. User Pop Future. Excuse me, just Pop Future. I'm right there with you. Your song Sunday Afternoon sounds organic. AI can't do that now or ever. If you listen to classic songs, you can hear the difference. It feels warm like being at home. If AI bots want to sound like us, they need to be robots in the physical world moving knobs of analog gear. Even then, I have my doubts. Yeah. Again, drumming up the AI speak again. But point of the video was that it is more fulfilling to me to reach over and grab a bass guitar and play it rather than poke at a bass guitar on the keyboard. Or what I believe would be worse is to reach over the computer and just tell it, give me a bass guitar track in the key of E, make it in the style of the Foo Fighters. I don't think that's the way forward, because if there's no fulfillment, if there's no joy happening in the process, then people will just not, they'll just choose not to make music at all. And so that's not good for any of us. Very dystopian. This comment is from Learn Music 488. This video reminds me of that part in Jurassic Park when Jeff Goldblum says, paraphrased, "We always ask the question, could we? When we should have been asking the question, should we?" I thought it was very cool, very on point. I'd forgotten that quote ever existed, but yes, it's true. Just because we have something available to us doesn't mean we need to go reaching for it immediately. It's good to think about these things. And I know that people get annoyed. You see a lot of videos online right now about AI's good, AI's bad. Let's talk about AI. Don't get frustrated with the fact that there's a lot of people kind of wrestling through this. I think it's good conversations to have rather than just rushing in and saying, okay, yes, this is fine. Because once you get too far in, there's pretty much no going back. Okay, just a few more here. Again, if you're interested in becoming a member on the channel, you will receive priority reply in videos like this. Just click the join button below this video to become a member today and help support the channel. This one is for Boy Antrifonov. Hopefully y'all can see it on screen. It says, is the Scarlett 2i2 4th Gen a good option for Mac users? I was researching the Rode Streamer X and the XLR dock for my Stream Deck Plus, but both options have problems with Mac OS for some reason. If the Scarlett 2i2 is good with Mac, I will probably get it. Yes, the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 is great for Mac. In fact, I would say most audio interfaces out there that are created as audio interfaces, I think nowadays they pretty much start with Mac in mind. Back when I went to school in 2010, it was very much still, you saw those Dell commercials of, you know, you're getting a Dell or whether you're getting a Windows or a Mac machine. It was all this rivalry back and forth. Nowadays, it's pretty unanimous, like majority. I'm going to get hate. Let me rephrase. The majority of people out there who are creating music, they happen to be creating music because they already have a MacBook that came with GarageBand. They've been introduced to it, or they have an association in their mind, whether it's true or not, that artists and creative people use MacBooks. So most audio interface companies out there, if they're creating an audio interface, they're first and foremost thinking of making sure it is Mac compatible and then Windows. Case in point, Universal Audio one of the bigger brands out there. They get a lot of flack because most of their products, they kind of just struggled, or they were kind of slow to create products that were Windows supported because they were very much Mac first. So that was a little tangent rant. Focusrite Scarlett worked great with Mac. I've used it both Mac and Windows. It does a great job. You will not be disappointed for that. Okay, everybody, I've been going quite a while, so that'll probably do it for this video. I really enjoy going through the comments. I hope you'll drop some comments on this video as well, and I'll be sure to address them possibly in a future video. And again, consider joining the channel, become a member today. Best way to support the channel. My name's Chris Green. I look forward to seeing you back here again for another video. Thanks for watching.